recording, so we're all set. I've got a tech in the back, I've got a backup tech in the back, and I've got a third backup tech if we have to run and get them. So we're all set. Anyway, Marie and Greg, of course, are the senior pastors of this church in Germany, and some of their people, leaders that they have traveling with them, and they're going to share whatever they want to share. Maybe testimony, maybe specific words that God's put on their heart for the class for this time. But it's going to be powerful, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad you came out. I hope some are listening online. I hope others will show up. There's something about hunger. God feeds the hungry. So, Marie, Ina, Lily, Nina, and John. And John and Nina are married, and the two ladies have families back in Germany. And, of course, Marie and her husband have family.
Well, good morning, everyone. We're glad to be here and just to share a part of our life with you. Life is, I see it as a journey, and everybody's on a different journey, but we all need God. We need the living God in our lives, and everybody needs God in a different way, but we need his life, and that's what we'd like to share this morning, is God's life in us, in our body in Germany, and we're thankful for everything the Lord's doing there. So.
Hi, so my name is Nina, and I'm going to share a little bit of how I ended up in Germany. So at the time, I was actually living in Florida, and then I was married before, so my first husband I met in Florida. I moved to Germany, I left everything behind, and we got married. And as soon as we got married, then everything changed. So basically, he was very charming, he was very nice, and right after marriage, everything shifted. Suddenly, there was a lot of control. All my finances were controlled, so I couldn't buy anything. I had to ask for every little thing. If I had to go to a store, my clothing was changed. The way I had to behave was changed, so I had to be a certain way when I spoke German or English. So a lot of times I would wake up in the night, like I would go to the bathroom or something like that, and he would just come behind me. I would not even expect him, and he would just grab me by my neck and lift me up, and he was out of nowhere. So that brought a lot of shock to my body. There was a lot of fear, so I lived in a constant fear all the time. And he also chose all my doctors, so my life was basically all controlled. I couldn't go to the doctor where I wanted to go. I think he had even GPS in the car. He followed everywhere I went. And basically even my phone, everything was hacked, so I couldn't stay in contact with my family. And I was all alone in Germany, so completely alone. I got pregnant. Then I had my son. And right after I had my son, the day came when it was really extreme. I was seeking help. I went to see a lawyer. He found out. I don't know how. I tried to do everything that he doesn't find out. And that night, he got extremely mad. I had to lock myself in a room, and I thought he was going to take my life. It was that bad. And a neighbor called the police, so that was just really God intervened, and they came in, and they took me out. They said, "You have to come out. We've never seen anybody so controlling." And they took me out with my son. But I was in Germany, like I said, all alone, in a foreign country. I only lived there for 2 years, and I had no place to go. So, basically, they said you have to go to a women's shelter, and there was no space. So, this is how it began. And when, in that moment, like I had no place to go, I basically went to the States. I just took a flight to States, but what I didn't know, it's considered international child kidnapping, but I had no choice. So I was in the States for about 2 months, because I used to live in Virginia, and then the court decided if I don't come back, they're going to put me in jail. So I had no choice but to come back to all of this, to Germany, and that was my they said the only hope that you can fight for custody case in Germany, not in the States. So I went back, and I spent next 7 years on a family court. I was accused of child abuse, of sexual abuse, all false accusations, everything possible, because he wanted to take over the custody. He wanted a custody. So that was that control, a lot of manipulation. He had connections, so he was wealthy, he had power, he had everything. And basically, for 7 years, I was on a court, and everybody said, there is no hope. There is no hope. There is no way you can fight this. So I was praying to God this whole time, and I was at the end. There was really no hope. I couldn't think. I mean, I was tormented day and night, because every church I went to, even in Germany, I reached out to people. Nobody had answers. Prophets, apostles, it didn't matter. Nobody had answers. How does this stop? Because he knew all these people in a court, judges and everybody. So everything was against me. And I was innocent, but everything looked like I'm guilty. So that's the thing. When everything looks like you're guilty. And then I heard about Greg Violi. So, and I came to a conference, and I said to Lord, this is the end. Either I'm physically dead, because he even said he's going to send somebody to take my life, and he had that power. Or I'm going to be completely mentally, emotionally dead. So, but this is it. And I remember coming to this conference, and I came in, and at this specific conference, Dad spoke about remitting sins. And I never heard this before. Whosever sins you remit, they're remitted. It's in John 20:23. And whosever sins you retain, they're retained. And as he released this, I just became one with his word. It was the word of God. I became one, and the power of God came. And I knew in his spirit something broke. And what happened is, at that point, the power of evil that was over my ex-husband and all these people in a court, because I remitted sins of judges, court evaluators, all these people, the power broke, and then everything shifted. It changed. So my ex-husband was a completely different man. My son, who was tormented and traumatized, because you have to understand, he was 2 when they took him away. I literally could not be a mom, so that was taken away from me. I just thought that I can have visitation. But he was completely changed and restored. He was healed. You could see it on their faces. And you could even, like I said, on my ex-husband, just the darkness was lifted off. And also with a court, it ended. 7 years of that court case ended finally. And there was this one more decision I had to make on the last court date. They wanted to continue, because they're making money off of this. So they want to continue things, and it can be dragged on a family court for 20 years. And I heard the Lord say, you stand up in front of all these experts, judges, everybody, and you just say, I'm ready to never see my son again. I need this to stop. So I got up, and this was the hardest things for a mom to do. This is my only son. And I stood up, and I spoke this word, and that broke something, and they ended the court case. I never had to go back to the court. I was never accused of anything. And this is when relationship between me and my son was restored. And my ex-husband would allow me to see my son all the time. So everything changed. So, yeah. So this is one of the greatest, I would say, revelations. And this only now is speaking about this situation, but it goes much further. For example, remitting sins over the land, remitting sins over the court systems, even politics. It does something in the spirit that it changes people. It changes how they run things. So, yeah. And then also, right after all that happened, I think it wasn't even 2 months, I met my husband. So all the doors were open, but until that point, everything was closed. And then we met, and God brought a man into my life that we can walk together in a calling. So, and this was very special. And now, even my husband, he has a really good relationship with my son. They love each other. We also spend time with my ex-husband. So, yeah, so this is very interesting. And one more thing was with my mom. So this was really difficult for my mom. She was in Virginia the whole time, and she was seeing this and watching, but nobody could help me. I'm in Germany, and if I leave, I will never see my son again. So there was no choice. I had to stay there. So she had a lot of anger towards my ex-husband, but last year she came to visit us, and we shared with her what took place by remitting sins. And my mom is not a believer. But after that, she grabbed onto that, and she decided to forgive him, my ex-husband, and basically remit his sins. I didn't know about it. All I know that it was like 2 days later, She called me and she's on a video with him and my son, her grandson, together. They were spending time. And what happened when she remitted sins, he was in Berlin, Germany at a time. He drove about 11 hours to Croatia, because she was in Croatia, to bring my son so they can see each other. Because before that, he would not allow her to see him. So that's also, it restored relation between my mom and the grandson. So that was another big thing that happened. And like I said, she's not a believer, but she believed the word of God, and it completely changed everything.
Yeah. When her ex-husband, when I first met him, she had told me about the stories before I had moved to Germany. I'm from Minnesota, and we got married, and I moved to Germany because her son was in Berlin, and she said, "Well, that's where I'll be. I'll be in Germany if When we first met, we met online through my brother, through Greg and Marie. My brother and his wife were connected to them, and I think Nina had been at one of his conferences at one point in Germany, and had connected on Facebook. And I think during COVID, I had shared a video that my brother had shared, and she saw that on the page, and that's how we connected. So, but that's a long story. But now I'm in Germany, and I know the background of what she's gone through. She spoke about this, and you could really sense like the heaviness when she shared it. I mean, it was a very tormenting place that she was living in. So she was wooed by a man full of misogyny, full of control in Florida. Said something to the effect, "You're for me," basically, or remember when you first met him? Yeah, you're the one. Or God has showed me, or there's a connection here, and yeah, that God sent him to her, and that started that relationship. So complete control, complete manipulation, complete deception, crazy. But it's an assignment of the enemy, probably. But what the Lord has done through that and his ways has really turned things around in a tremendous way. I mean, it was amazing. So I know a little bit of the backdrops. She's moved to Berlin. She left everything behind. Good job, family, America. She left to be married, and turned out to be, the guy's a monster. He wanted a child. They had a baby. Things were changing immediately. Things were not the same. He was with other women, yet he was really concerned and controlling about who she was around and where she was going. But in the background, he was the one going around. So just complete use, and that's misogyny. Just no regard for the woman. Just complete selfishness. Complete. The woman is for me to use, and this guy was high level. So she would tell me these stories, and going through 7 years in the courts and the torment, her being alone, not knowing anybody in Germany, not knowing the language, having to learn German, having to learn law and law language, and be in the courts alone. And she tried to connect, like she said, with apostles and the church, but they had no answers for her. They had religion. They had nothing that was real, of substance, that would change a situation for her. It was just torment. She was tormented. So when I heard those stories, and then I met her husband for the first time, I really couldn't see that. I was having a hard time, this man here, relating to what I had heard. And so her testimony is, she had remitted his sins and released forgiveness, and that broke something in the atmosphere that it had extreme control and an extreme lock over his mind, and the son. So I couldn't see that. And then it even came, I was like, wow. I mean, that's really, I can't see it. I can't see it. And we just recently had dinner with them. And the son, my stepson, her son, he does. There's a genuine love. He's very happy to see me. He's very, gives me a kiss on the cheek and wants, and you can just feel he's just really wanting to embrace. So this is just a total transformation. It's just amazing. So I had been in past relationships similar, not the same, but similar. I was under control. I was seeking a godly marriage, but in the background were a lot of lies, a lot of manipulation, a lot of control, a lot of different things, a lot of different evil, and it was extreme abuse, and it brought me to the point of being suicidal, I would say, very depressed. I had a lot of anxiety, a lot of fear, questioning lots of things. And I was in Minnesota. I was serving under ministries, just really seeking the Lord, but I never had the answers that I was looking for. There was just such a torment in me. And so we both come from that type of past. And God brought us together. I would say I was at my end too. Before I'd met her, I had given up. I said, Lord, I don't know where I will, because I don't know that anybody really wants to be alone. They want the one that God has for them. And she is my Ezer Genegdo. She is the one that God has for me. This is, I know that because there's things like in this book, The Disguised Murderer, the misogyny from my bloodline. When we first met, she kind of put books on the table, wanting me to, listen to the messages about pride, listen to the messages about misogyny, and I didn't. I even said to the Lord, I appreciate her zeal, I appreciate her passion, and knowing a little bit about what she came from, it was, yeah, I get it, but at the same time, there's such a resistance in the blood. There was a resistance from my past relationships because I think that even fueled, that threw gas on the fire of misogyny, because I was so abused by these women, and it was so, and anything would trigger me in the beginning. It was really strong, and she would be triggered by my pride, my misogyny, and any control or any type of hardness, because that's what she had experienced. And so it was real interesting. There was such a fight to receive that in the beginning, but I knew I have to come into this because I hadn't been healed. I knew I hadn't been healed. I knew I was not whole. There was lots of things that the Lord needed to do, and I knew that this was his plan. And I had to take one step at a time, and come into that. And coming to Germany, there were some battles, there were definitely some battles, but this law of mercy and this book right here, The Key to Staying in Love, talking about judgments, and that's a big thing. These hard things in our heart where we would judge someone and judge why they're doing something, not seeing their past, and it just creates these walls when in reality, okay, maybe we've been wronged, but the Lord is wanting us to release mercy. He's wanting us to release forgiveness. He's wanting us to release his love, his compassion. And that's really what he's looking for. And this is what's behind the remitting of the sins. In this place of deep forgiveness, this place of deep mercy that brings this reconciliation that's taken place already, what we were speaking about this morning, this reconciliation that's taken place. in the blood, it's taken place, and we can remit the sins here on the earth. We've been given this dominion mandate to release the law of mercy, but I do not see that at work so much. I see a lot more judgment. I see a lot more hardness. I see a lot more division. I see a lot less unity. I do not see this law of mercy, and I think this is one body. He's looking for one body. He's not looking for this denomination. He's not looking for a Jew, Greek, black, white, Pentecostal, Baptist, man. He's one body. He's looking for this unity in the Spirit. But there is so much there in the realm of judgments and wounds. So I could share longer, but when I came, I think it was this past year, I came into the fire. This is what it is. I wanted to deal with some of this stuff. I had to share a lot of things about past relationships, because I don't know what's going on. I really can't get to, there's deep things. There's things that are blocking this in me, for us to come together completely as we're designed to come together. And I had made a vow to be married to another woman, just like jokingly almost, when we were in our 20s. And that was a big key. She had said, well, hey, if we're not married by the time we're 40 and we're in our 20s and we're here and you're there and neither of us are married, let's just agree that we'll come together and be married. Well, at that moment, we made a vow together in the Spirit. And that was one thing that was really hidden and needed to be broken off. But it was the body at a conference that we went to in Germany, some of the elders, some of the leaders, and just coming into the fire and just sharing everything. I just shared all the stuff, being open. No image, no protection of self, just letting it all out, letting it all out, letting it all out, letting it all out. And even in this realm of forgiveness, just letting them lead me through this forgiveness, and then just releasing this power that's within the body, releasing this fire that's within the body. And I came out of that prayer time and that conference completely changed, completely different. I feel like I came into a real, true identity at that point, but not until I dealt with all those. And that was like 20 years ago, some of that stuff. So I'd been carrying this stuff forever, And my point in that is you don't have to carry this stuff forever. You can deal with it in the here and the now. And I recommend it because it will block you from, being connected to one another in the body, but especially between husband and wife. But it's a lot different. And we're going from glory to glory. And it's getting better and better every day. So I will yep.
Just have one more thing I want to add. When John was speaking about judgments, I had to think about the heart of the Father, because I remember when I was seeking help, people just judged me. And I think it's very important. You never know what people are going through. And maybe it's just to listen to them, just to listen to what I have to say. And sometimes it's the only hope they have. And that one thing can really, really be helpful. So it's so easy to judge. You look on the outside appearance. Somebody can look completely guilty, but they're innocent. So I just want to share that. That's really, really important. That just to ask the Lord to give us His heart of compassion for the people, and we can see people through His eyes.
Ja.
Einfach ein Abenteuer.
Life is an adventure.
Also heute lebe ich wirklich ein Abenteuer.
Today I'm really living this adventure.
Mit Christus ist Abenteuer.
With Christ, it's an adventure.
Ohne Christus will man nur noch sterben.
Without Christ, you can only die.
So, ich komme aus einem Hintergrund, ich würde nennen, ja, Christen,
I come from a Christian background.
die gesagt haben, die lieben Gott,
They said they love God,
aber die verherrlichen sich selbst.
but they glorify only themselves.
Sie leben für sich selbst
They live for themselves,
und die leben aus sich selbst.
and they live out of themselves.
Und das war ich auch.
And that's how I was as well.
So, ich bin aus dem christlichen Zuhause, also ich würde so sagen, bevor ich geheiratet habe,
I would say before I was married,
ich hab gedacht, wenn ich noch einmal meinen Vater schreien höre,
I thought when I would,
zornig schreien höre,
if I would hear my father scream and be angry,
mein Nervensystem wird zusammenbrechen und ich müsste in die Psychiatrie.
my nervous system would break and I would have to go to psychiatrist.
Also an dem Punkt war ich.
I was at that point.
Dann habe ich geheiratet
Then I got married,
und habe gedacht, so, jetzt wird's ja besser.
and I thought it's going to be better now.
Preis den Herrn, mein Mann ist nicht so wie mein Vater. Ja.
Thank you, Lord, that my husband is not like my father.
Das Problem ist, ich selbst in mir war genauso, ich würde sagen, Babel. Ich bin in Babel aufgewachsen.
I would say inside of myself, I grew up in Babylon,
Und innen drin starb ich.
and I would die inside of
Und
this.
ich habe versucht, aus meiner eigenen Stärke zu leben.
And I tried to live out of my own strength
Jeden Tag.
every day.
So bekamen wir 4 Kinder.
So we had 4 children,
Und dann hatten wir auf dem Herzen, noch ein Pflegekind aufzunehmen.
and we had on our heart to adopt a child.
Und
A
als
foster
wir das Kind nochmal bekommen haben von
When-
der Stadt,
When we got this child from foster care,
ja, da habe ich gemerkt, okay, meine eigene Kraft geht zu Ende.
then I thought my own strength is coming to an end.
Ich kann nicht mehr.
I cannot do this anymore.
Ich schaffe das nicht mehr.
I cannot make this anymore.
Und dann weiß ich noch ganz genau, wie ich einmal zum Gebet gekommen bin, zu meinem jetzt geistlichen Vater. Damals habe ich ihn das erste Mal, glaube ich, gesehen.
And I remember when I came to my spiritual father for a prayer, I believe that was the first time I saw him.
So, und ich wollte das Gebet für meine Kinder, nicht für mich.
And I wanted a prayer for my children, not for me.
Ich habe gedacht, meine Kinder sind ungehorsam. Ich versuche das Beste zu tun.
I thought my children are not obedient. I'm trying to do my best.
So, aber ich bin am Ende wegen meinen Kindern.
But I'm at the end because of my children.
Ich realisierte nicht, dass ich bis dahin, dass ich Christus brauchte.
I didn't realize until that point that I needed Christ.
Weil ich hatte das religiöse System. Bis dahin.
Because until then, I only had the religious system.
Also, das heißt, einen falschen Christus.
That means a false Christ.
So. So. Ich kann noch erinnern, wie Papa gebetet hat.
I can still remember when Dad prayed.
Er legte die Hand auf meine Schulter.
He put a hand on my shoulder
Und dann sagte er zu mir,
and he said,
Vater, gib ihr das Herz der Barmherzigkeit und Erbarmen.
Lord, give her the heart of mercy and compassion,
Und leg ihr Herz ganz nah an dein Herz.
and put your heart close to her heart
Damit sie fühlen kann, wie du fühlst.
so that she can feel how you feel.
So, und diese Worte waren hinter mir her.
And these words were behind me, following me.
Ich glaube, ab dann habe ich überhaupt angefangen, Christus zu erfahren.
I believe from that point forward, I was experiencing Christ.
Ich habe verstanden, ich habe nicht das Herz. Ich habe nicht Gottes Herz.
I understood I had not had God's heart.
Ich habe kein Gottes Herz.
I didn't have God's heart.
So, ich kann nicht fühlen für meine Kinder.
I could not feel for my children.
Mein Vater war ein frauenhassender, zorniger Vater.
My father was full of misogyny, hatred of women, and he
Und
was angry.
ich bin aufgewachsen unter extremen Spannung
And I
und
grew up
Angst.
under extreme tension and fear.
Ja. Und so konnte ich für meine Kinder, ich konnte nur das geben, was ich hatte.
I can only give what I had.
So. Und was hatte ich? Nur das.
And what I had, only this.
So, wo ist Christus?
Where is Christ?
So. Und dann fing die Reise an.
And then a journey started.
Ein Abenteuer mit wahrhaftigem Christus.
Adventure with a real,
Denn
true
ich
Christ.
bin ihm begegnet,
And I met him and encountered him
weil ich ihm begegnet bin.
because I encountered him.
So, und er fing mein Herz zu verändern.
And he started to
Ich
change my
musste
heart.
alle Richturteile entfernen aus meinem Leben.
I had to remove all the judgments from my life.
Ich habe jedem vergeben müssen, jedem.
I had to forgive every single person.
So, und dann hat es angefangen mit meinem Pflegekind.
And this started with my foster child.
Er war sehr, sehr, sehr schwieriges Kind.
He was a very, very difficult child.
Er würde nach Hause kommen von der Schule,
He would come from
sagen,
school.
hallo Mama.
Hello, Mom.
Und ich habe noch nicht mal geschafft, etwas zu sagen. Er ist verschwunden.
And I didn't even have time to say anything, and he would just disappear.
Und ich habe ihn gesucht, manchmal bis spät in der Nacht.
And sometimes I would have to look for him till late at
Und
night.
egal, wie ich ihm gesagt habe, du musst Mama das sagen, wo du hingehst.
And it didn't matter if I said you have to tell Mom where you go.
Er würde einfach weglaufen, weg ist er.
He would just go away and he would disappear.
Ja, mit 6 Jahren kam er das erste Mal mit Polizei nach Hause, weil er geklaut hat.
And when he was 6, he came home with police because he stole something.
Und er würde klauen weiter.
And he would
Er
steal
würde lügen.
more,
Er würde
lie.
die Kinder schlagen.
He would hit other children.
Die Schule wird jeden Tag anrufen.
School would call every single day.
Und ich war am Ende.
And I was at the end.
Dann kam aus mir so ein Zorn.
And then out of me came anger.
Und ich dachte, ich nehme dieses Kind und klatscht ihn gegen die Wand.
And I thought, I'm going to grab him. I'm just going to hit him against the wall.
Und dann merkte ich, okay, Lili, du brauchst Christus.
And then thought came, Lily, you need Christ.
Bis dahin habe ich gedacht, ich liebe dieses Kind, wir haben den doch genommen.
Until that point, I thought, I love this child. We took him in.
Ja, wir geben ihm doch alles.
We give him everything.
So habe ich gedacht.
So I thought.
Aber wisst ihr was?
But you know what?
Gott begegnet uns nur in der Wahrheit.
God only encounters us in truth.
So, ich musste zur Wahrheit kommen, in
I had
meinem
to-
Herzen.
I had to come to truth in my heart.
Die Wahrheit ist,
The truth is,
ich kann dieses Kind nicht lieben.
I cannot love this child.
Ich konnte dieses Kind nicht lieben.
I cannot love this
Mit
child.
meiner eigenen Stärken, mit meinen eigenen Lili kann das Kind nicht lieben.
In my own strength, I cannot love this child.
So, ich kann das Kind nicht lieben. Ich habe Angst.
I cannot love this child. I have fear.
Ich muss zur Wahrheit kommen. Ich beschuldige Gott, warum er mir so ein Kind gegeben hat.
I have to come to truth. I'm accusing God why He gave me such a child.
So. Und ich weiß nur, jedes Mal, wenn ich richtig zornig reagiert habe,
And every time I got so angry at Him,
habe ich mich entschlossen, okay, ich gehe zu Gott.
I decided I'm going to go to
Ich werde
God.
mich entschuldigen.
I'm not going to accuse Him.
Ich werde mich entschuldigen.
I will ask for forgiveness.
Ich will mich entschuldigen.
I'm going to ask for forgiveness.
Und ich schrie zu Gott, ich brauche dich.
And I'm screaming to God, I need you, God.
Ich brauche dich. Ich kann dieses Kind nicht erziehen und nicht lieben.
I need you. I cannot raise this child. I cannot love this child.
So, und ich sag's euch, ich bin 1 Jahr dadurch gegangen. 1 Jahr.
And I went through this for 1 year.
1 Jahr lang.
1 year long.
Weil Christus musste etwas in meinem Herzen tun.
Because Christ has to do something
Und
in my
ich
heart.
glaube, ich war die erste von der ganzen Blutslinie,
And I believe I was the first one in the
die
bloodline
entschlossen hat,
that decided
nicht zu hassen,
not to hate,
nicht zu richten,
not to judge,
sondern dieses Zorn von der Blutslinie
In this-
zu brechen.
and this anger in my bloodline to break it.
So, ich weiß, eines Tages stand ich, weil ich sagte immer wieder, Herr, warum hast du mir so ein schweres Kind gegeben?
I came before the Lord and I screamed, why you gave me such a difficult child?
Und dann hörte ich
And then I heard
die Stimme Gottes.
the voice of God.
Er sagte, es geht überhaupt nicht um dieses Kind.
This is not about your child.
Es geht um dein Herz.
It is about your heart.
Und dann fing ich an zu weinen.
And then I
Und ab
started to
da
cry.
war ich entschlossen.
And then I decided,
Dieses Ding in mir
this thing inside of me,
wird, also dieses Zorn, Hass und all das, nicht leben.
this anger, hate, it will not live inside of me.
Christus wird mein Leben sein.
Christ will be my life.
So, und ungefähr nach einem Jahr,
And about 1 year after,
weiß ich, wie heute, stehe in meinem Wohnzimmer.
like I'm standing in my living room,
Und mein Junge, er kommt von der Schule.
and my young boy comes from the school.
Das ist derjenige, der Adoptivkind, ne?
That's the foster child.
Ja, er kommt nach Hause und
Ja.
ich sehe ihn
He comes home and I see him,
und ich habe die Augen des Vaters.
and I have the eyes of the father.
Und ich dachte, der ist so wunderschön.
And I thought, he's so beautiful.
Er ist so, den kann man ja nur noch lieben.
You can only love him.
Und ich habe gedacht, egal was er zu Hause machen würde, wenn er jetzt was ganz Schlimmes, wer würde so eine Bombe bringen oder irgendwas und schmeißen in mein Wohnzimmer.
And I thought, it doesn't matter what he's going to do at home, if he's going to create a total mess.
Ich könnte ihn nur noch lieben.
I can only love him.
So, und nach diesem Prozess
And after this process,
konnte ich wirklich seiner Blutslinie die Schulter lassen.
then I could remit the sins in his bloodline.
Ich konnte all die Dinge benennen nennen vor Gott und für ihn eintreten
And I can stand in a gap for him before the Lord
und bitten, dass Gott ihn befreit.
and pray that the Lord sets him free.
Ich und mein Mann, wir beide.
Also, yeah, me and my husband together.
Ja. Und, und ich kann es wie heute noch, ich erinnere mich, wie am nächsten Tag, nachdem ich für ihn praktisch vor Gott gebetet habe und alles gebrochen habe in seiner Blutslinie,
A day after, I prayed for him and I broke everything in his bloodline.
weiß ich noch ganz genau, wie er mir entgegenkommt.
I just remember exactly how he came
Ich schaue
towards me.
ihn an und er ist wie erlöst. Er hatte so viel Spannung in sich. Er war so angespannt und wollte immer was. Und hier war er auf einmal so wie frei. Er guckte mich an, ich konnte normal antworten.
And then I could see how he was free. He was so light because before that he was full of tension.
Er war auch nicht klar im Kopf, überhaupt nicht
He
klar.
wasn't clear in his mind at all
Ja,
before.
ja. So, und so hat der Herr angefangen, mich zu lehren, wie ich aus seinem Herzen lebe.
And that's when the Lord, he was teaching me how to love from his heart,
Wie man aus ihm lebt,
how to live from
aus
him,
ihm umarmt.
how
Dass unser Leben ist er.
that his life, that our life is his,
Dass sein Leben, dass er möchte in uns leben
that he wants to live inside of us
und durch uns leben.
and through us.
Und wahrhaftiges Leben ist er.
And the true life is him.
Davor hatte ich kannte alles über Gott, über den Vater,
Before I knew everything about God,
aber nicht ihn selbst.
but I didn't know him.
So bin ich dem Vater begegnet.
So I met God, the Father.
So I grew up also in a very religious Christian family. My father was a pastor. So, we was always in the church. My father read always the Bible. The Bible was laying always at the table. So, but I wanted to tell you the fruit from this. So, we were full of hate, full of murder. I will say really, it was murder. Hate is murder. So, self-pity, rage, hate, also all kinds of sickness. In our home was always tension. It was never peace. I cannot remember. I remember I always was seeking for peace, somewhere to hide myself, and that it's silence and peace. It was a lot of yelling. In the church was my father a really kind and soft person. So at home it was another world. Yeah. So because he was a pastor, and we had 18 children. I was the 17th child, so it was always about his image, how he looks before people. So this why even the children will not behave good in the church. He would come home and said, um, I said, you put such a shame on me as a pastor, you know. So, and then he will beat us. I never know for what he beat us. So, was my life. And then when I was married, with 18 years, when I was 18 years old, we was married, and I wanna just run away from my house. This is what the truth. So, and then at the wedding day, that it was just what you hear already. My husband told me he didn't love me. He loved another woman, but he will still marry me. And I was so wounded, and I said, "Oh, he offered himself for me." Was my life, but I was full of self-pity. I was consumed from self-pity. So our marriage was not so good. My husband had depression, and then his father had the same. He killed himself, his father, also a Christian. And my husband wanted to commit suicide a lot, so it was always, our children wanted to kill themselves when they were 13, 15 years old. And I hated to read the Bible because I thought, why I should read? We didn't experience this. So, and I remember one day, it was at night, I came to the point where I said, okay, either I will go to the mental hospital, or I will kill myself, or something have to change. And I know I screamed, I said, God, when you are there and you are the true God, you are alive, then reveal yourself. It's over. And then I hear this word, I say with my words. So when you will seek me in time of need, you will find me. So, and then afterwards, it was a couple months later. Before, at this point, I for 1 month, I could not leave a house. I was full of fear and phobia. And then you have fear, so to leave your home, so phobia, yeah. So, and then suddenly, Lilith, we wanted to be divorced, so it was no hope, basically no hope. We was running to every counselor, and no one could help us. So they told us, you have to believe, you have Christ, grab in his life, but what it means? So, and then she invited us to a marriage conference, and this was our last hope. So, and then we both was wounded, and we blamed each other. When we went to the seminar, I thought when he will change, our life will be better, and he thought when she will change, then our life will be okay. Yeah, this was our motive to go there. So I thought, I am okay, and he said, he is okay. So what I didn't know, before the conference, he went to Papa Greg, and he started to share the story about me. So, and before, when he was going to this counselor, they told always, your wife has to change. They always blamed me. It was the truth. Always I was the guilty one. So, and then he came to him, and then he told him, you go home and humble yourself before your wife and children. And then he came home, and then they said, how dare he, me, humble person, to tell I have humbled myself. So, and he broke his CDs and so did so, smashed them. So, and then when I this here said, wait, something is here different. Okay, this is what was my motive. I said, someone told him to humble himself, so we were there, we were sitting at the conference. I was consumed from self-pity. I cried because I felt like a victim. I was. But self-pity will not help. So, and then this was the beginning. At the end of the conference, Papa Greg said, to wash each other's feet. And I was asking, I hope you don't want that I wash your feet. He said, no, I hope you don't want that I wash your feet. So we was full of pride. We was at the end, and still everyone thought we are right. So, and then the presence of God filled this room, and suddenly my husband said, come, I will wash your feet. And this was the first time that we cried, but not from self-pity, but I was really this was the beginning that I saw my heart. I was hard, I was consumed with bitterness against my husband. He did a lot. He was beating me, did a lot. But I was always focused on his sins, always. It was my focus. So, and this was the beginning. So, and when I first, and at this conference, Papa Greg cannot remember, but he looked at me, had said hello. And we are all vessels for the Father, for the love of God. And I believe, to this time, I saw in his eyes Jesus. And for the first time in my life, I feel special. Never before. And suddenly, I said, I don't know what is it, but I wanted this. It creates like a hunger in me. I wanted to know this, whatever it is. To this time, I didn't know that it was the love of the Father. So, and the Bible says in 1 John 4:16 to 19, I said, we love because he first loved us. So, I was consumed from self-hatred also. So I could not love myself. I could not love. How I can love other person when I cannot receive the love of God for myself. So and there, this was the beginning of the journey. The Lord started at this conference. The Lord healed our marriage, and He started to restore our families, our children. All the sickness, I have over 30 disease. He healed my disease, emotional, physical, mental. So, but I didn't know the Father. Because I grew up with a Father, God as Father. He's always angry at you. And when you do something wrong, He will punish you. So this is my view of God. So, and because from Him, through Him, and to Him. So His love flows from Him, through us, and to Him. But when I cannot receive His love for myself, I cannot give this love to my children, to my husband, to my people close to me, so to my neighbor. So, and I remember this book, Finding Father, Finding Wholeness. This book, it changed my life. I remember I even took this book in my hand, and I started to cry and cry and cry. This book is full of presence and substance of the love of the Father. So, since this time, I still on the way, but so many things are restored. Today I know that uh, my behavior doesn't determine my identity. But to know that I am a daughter. Because religion tells you you have to be like this, 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 this. You have to reach a level and then to be like Christ. No, it will not help. it, I know I try to love my husband. It's funny, yeah. But maybe someone will help this. So, I put 1 Corinthians 13 at the wall where my husband was sitting. Big verse. So, and I thought, when I will look at him, I will see this, love is patience, love is this, love is this. Then I will manifest love. And I remember, I decide when my husband will come home, I will not be angry, he will experience the inner that he never experienced in his life. It's true, he experienced an inner that he never experienced in his life. But not in positive way, negative way. This what created one thing, what it in Romans 7:18-21. When I, from myself, want to do good thing, then I set in motion this law of sin. So I want to do good, but everything was coming out from a sin. And this has happened with me. And then one day, I remember, it's like, it has to be this exchange life. Christ, I cannot love, and he cannot mix himself with my love. It has to be he. I have to be not on the way, but to allow Christ to live through me, and he can love. I remember Papa Greg shared one time, he asked the Lord, how I know it's my love or his love? God's love. Yeah, and then he said, when it's hard, it's my love. When it's easy, because God is love. He just loves. You don't have to try to love, but I tried with all my strength and with all my power. Adam could come from Adam. It was horrible. And I was so religious, and my family doesn't want to sit with me at the table. And I said, right, they cannot stay Christ in me, And, for them, it's like the Bible says, it's like for one person, it's aroma of cry, of death, and for other one of life. So for them it's death because they are not so good like me, Oh, it was a journey. And then one day I came to my end. I said, Lord, I cannot love them. I can't. And I heard, that's right, you cannot. I was waiting for this, but you come to your end. Now he can pour his love through me. So, and I was healed from many wounds from my father. And I go from glory to glory. Today I know that I am loved. And this was the day we was laughing up front of the church, we messed up. It was not so good. But what we get, kiss. And I was not expected that we will be kissed. But what did the father with the son, prodigal son, when he came home? He started to confess his sins, and the father kissed him, he hugged him, and he wanted to celebrate. This is the father whom we serve. Not this hard, religious, he always want to punish you. Yeah, it's right. You will be disciplined, but like a child. And today I know that I am a daughter. and it's such an exciting experience. But I experienced the love of the Father from my spiritual father every day, every day, every day, and he lives. He manifested. He manifests his love, no matter where, every moment of his life. So, and today I will say I'm one of the happiest human in the world. So, one of them. It's many, but I am one of them. I know I'm loved, but I recommend you to read his book, Finding Father. It will change your life. But also the books about the heart of the lamb. Our marriage was healed, and based on one verse in the Bible. Is it Second Chronicle or First Chronicle 7:14? If my people, Second Chronicle, yeah, 7:14, yeah. If my people that is called by my name will humble themselves and turn from their wicked way, and then it's a pause, then they will pray and seek my face. And then he will hear from heaven and heal their land. So we experienced the Father healed our land, my family, my children, so in every way. So this is my...
So I just like to share one thing everyone had in common, and all of us have in common, is when we come to the end of ourselves, we stop the judging, we stop the blame or blaming others, blaming God for our circumstances. That's when God can meet us.
Der wahre Christus
The true Christ,
verschont selbst nicht.
Yeah.
he will not spare himself.
Und der falsche Christus
And the false Christ,
wird immer selbst verschonen.
he will always spare himself.
Not himself, the self. He will
Ja,
spare the self.
Ja, genau, vielleicht ist besser. Genau. Und das wollte ich noch sagen, weil wo ich dem wahren Christus begegnet bin,
When I met the true Christ,
und ich habe angefangen, es geht jetzt ums Buch der King's Holy Beauty.
yeah, and I started to read the book, The King's Holy Beauty,
Und ich musste auf jeder Seite weinen.
and I cried at every page
Denn ich war so verzerrt von selbst
because I was so consumed from myself
und von meinem Stolz.
and from my
Mein
pride.
Fokus war auf mir selbst.
My focus was always on
Die
me.
Stärke und die Quelle war ich selbst.
The power and the strength was me.
So, und ich war Christ.
And I was a Christian.
Und wo ich dann dem wahren Christus begegnet bin,
And when I met the true Christ,
seine Liebe
his love,
verschonte mein Selbst nicht.
he was not spare myself.
So, und damit bin ich von Herrlichkeit zu Herrlichkeit gegangen.
And so I went from glory to glory.
Er musste das Herz der Barmherzigkeit und ein niedriges Herz erschaffen in mir.
And he needed to create in me a low heart of humility, and
Ja, damit Demut, weil es ist sein Herz.
because it is his heart,
Ja,
humility,
dass ich aus ihm leben kann.
so that I could live from him,
Ja,
from his source.
ja. Und er verschont selbst nicht.
And he will never spare the self.
Ja.
All right, good. This was recorded, I believe, right? You can go back to listen to it because there's application in everything they're sharing with what Greg is preaching. And sometimes we have this is living testimony. And I hope you've heard things out of that, not just take notes, but you may have to go listen to it again and again and again. Okay? Because it takes time for some things to sink in. Because we actually hear what we want to hear. And